Afternoon. Welcome back to the Tattered podcast, where we talk about the unthinkable for most of us. And today's message is one that's really important. There's an officer in almost every agency who everyone thinks is fine. They show up, they answer calls, they joke in the briefing room, they clear reports. And if you ask them anything, their answer is always, hey man, I'm good. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm doing well. Because they're still functioning and everyone believes them. But functioning is not the same thing as being okay. Police officers and veterans are very good at masking pain because the culture we live in, the one that we work in, it rewards control. We learn how to stand straight when we're tired, speak calm when we're angry, talk to people that are absolutely out of control, and keep moving when something inside us is starting to crack. That skill keeps us alive on the street, but it can also hide the fact that someone is drowning. One of the hardest parts of my own story was not just the incident or the investigation or the organizational pressure. It was the silence. It was realizing just how easy it is for someone to disappear emotionally while still being physically present. That's why peer support matters. And we talk a lot about law enforcement and peer support now. It's entered our language and our lexicon, and we're talking about it, which is great. I'm glad that that's what's happened. But we need to remember that peer support is more than supporting an officer after the incident. We need to be thinking proactively, proactive peer support. Make sure they know they're going to have support. Make sure that they don't have that question in their head when something happens. That's why peer support matters. It's why leaders matter. Leaders who support their troops and support peer support. And that's why we always have to ask twice. In my first couple of videos, I talked about when someone says, I'm fine, that's not the end of the conversation. That's an exercise in continuing it. That's an excuse for you to say, what do you mean by fine? Well, tell me something more. And it's okay to look at them sometimes and say, hey, step in my office for a second. Hey, this is a rusty so-and-so conversation. This is just peer support. How's your wife doing? How's your marriage doing? If you know they're going through something, try to stay on top of that stuff. If an officer shares with you something personal that they're going through, it's okay for you to go back and bring them in personally and say, hey, as peer support, what's everything okay? Are you doing all right? And if their answer is I'm fine, what do? We ask again, right? I'm fine is the beginning of a conversation. And the same thing, you good? Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. But the real version needs to be no, really. How are you doing? A quiet officer is not always a strong officer, and a quiet veteran is not always at peace. Sometimes they're just tired of explaining to people that seem busy what they've gone through. Then they don't really think you want to hear it. You've got to. And all the folks in our country, those who serve our nation, whether police, fire, EMS, or a veteran, are probably the most important. And they're the ones we're losing at outrageous rates to suicide. And we've got to beat it. We've got to change it. We've got to change the culture where we understand that that's something people think about. And when they lose control, that's one of those things that, well, I'll just end it because it gives them control back. We need to recognize that. Leadership means noticing before the crisis. Be proactive. Friendship means checking in before the funeral. Peer support means refusing to let silence do the talking. Because silence is a decision. One of my big sayings now is leadership is making a decision before silence makes it for you. Because too often in law enforcement, we don't want to say anything. We're not going to talk. We don't want to talk about this. That's a decision. Never forget that. So this week, what I want you to do is think about the person that you assume is fine, the one who looks totally stable, who looks like they have their life together. Because sometimes discipline is what they use to mask the hurt. Give them a text. Do a buddy check. I've kind of starting to get famous for my little buddy check text when I know somebody's going through something, and I'll just shoot them a text and say, hey, just a buddy check. Are you doing okay? Are you doing all right? And sometimes that leads to long conversations. Sometimes it's, yeah, I'm in the middle of this and I don't have time right now. That's fine. They still know you checked on them. They know you cared enough. So buddy check your friends this week. Shoot them a text. See how they're doing. And if they do that answer, if I'm fine, make sure you ask twice. Dig in. Dig a little deeper. And let them know this. You don't have to earn my help by falling apart. You've got my help now. Let's handle this while everything is stable, before the spiral, before the loop begins in your head and you start to get to the point where you are considering ending it. You matter. The blue line is simply thin enough. The green line, if you're a veteran, it's thin enough. We need you. You're important to this nation. You're important to your family. You're important to the people around you. And you're important to me. I want you to survive. You know, Tattered, When the Blue Line Phrase, my book. I actually have a copy here. This is a book about survival. This is a book about what happens when a stable, decorated officer suddenly has his entire life explode in his face. And if you'd have asked me 10 years ago, will you ever be suicidal? I'd have laughed at you. I'd have laughed in your face. No, that's never going to happen to me. It can't happen to me. I got a good family. I got a good wife. I got 2 good kids. And I do my job right. But you know what? It happened to me. And it could happen to you or one of your friends. And if you don't recognize it, you'll never forgive yourself. You'll never forgive yourself. The sun will rise tomorrow. And I want you to be here to see it. It'll be beautiful. And people have asked me, why is that line so important to me? So all of my life, working night shift and working day shift, sunrise or sunset was something I always looked to remind me. I took it as a reminder to say a prayer, to thank God for the day, for what he had done for me, for what I didn't even know that he had done for me. And you know, faith is a huge part of what we do. And I don't, different religions, different denominations, all of that, it really doesn't matter. It's your relationship. And that's what matters. And if that helps you, then every time you see a sunrise or a sunset, I challenge you to take just a few seconds and say a prayer. And thank God for the day. Thank God for what he did for you that day that you know about. But never forget to thank God for the stuff he did for you that day that you didn't know about. The gun that was pointed at you that you never saw, that didn't go off. The suspect that turned a corner before you stopped him and got into a fight. All that stuff adds up. We don't know the stuff God has done for us. So don't forget to thank him for all the stuff that you missed. So that's a short one today, but I wish you all the best. This is our 4th of July week, and we need to be celebrating as a country, not just where we are after 250 years, but some of the amazing human beings that we have that call themselves Americans. If you're a veteran, thank you for your service. I did not serve in the military. I went to a military school, the Citadel, and I know a lot of friends, a lot of good friends, including some that helped me get through what I went through with Tattered in the military. And they're amazing people. And, if I'm in a fight on the side of the road, another cop's going to jump out and help me. But you know who else is pretty likely to jump out and help me? Veterans. And I could point to incidents in my career where veterans stepped in and helped a police officer, saved a police officer. So we wear different uniforms. We have different colored lines. But we're like-minded people who recognize that service over self is important. So thank you for your service. And I don't mean that in a joking way. I mean that very seriously. On behalf of our nation, we wouldn't be half of what we are today if it wasn't for our veterans. And for our police officers who are fighting the war at home, stay in the fight. Stay in the fight. And remember, we are the peacemakers.